had too much influence over the locker room. He called DeAndre Hopkins in a meeting to talk about this and to kind of, I guess, hash it out. In that meeting, he started the meeting with telling DeAndre Hopkins this that blew my mind when DeAndre told me this. He said, he told DeAndre Hopkins, he said, hey, the last time I had to have a meeting like this, it was with Aaron Hernandez. I was like, what? He put in Aaron Hernandez in this meeting? He said, yes, he did. He said, Michael, that blew my mind that he would even bring that up. I've never been in any trouble. I don't know why would he equate me with Aaron Hernandez. And from there, the meeting just deteriorated. You know, he got into talking about DeAndre Hopkins because DeAndre Hopkins has a few kids and from different women. And he said, you know, he told DeAndre he doesn't like that he has his baby mamas around sometimes. And from that, I think the relationship just went bad. And thus, we got a trade of DeAndre Hopkins from Houston for basically, like I said earlier, a ham sandwich, all because of that relationship.
Wow, okay, that conversation is mind-blowing. That was Michael Irvin on Get Up discussing the conversation between head coach Bill O'Brien and star wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins being traded. You heard Aaron Hernandez's name being invoked, having children with multiple women as well. Obviously, this is 2020. Many of us have blended families here. We have reached out to Bill O'Brien. We have not heard back yet. Ryan Clark back here with us. Stephen A., go.
Well, first of all, I mean, I'm wondering whether or not, I just want to know what pictures Bill O'Brien has on somebody. I want to know what the hell has he done to not only be the head coach, but the GM and the front office executive, the man for the Houston Texans. What the hell has he done? He's been to the playoffs, you know, about 4 or 5 times. He's only missed the playoffs twice. You know, he's been in the playoffs 4 times, and he's missed the playoffs twice in the 6 years as head coach for the Houston Texans, but they've never been a threat to win the Super Bowl. We all know this, and there's a couple of times, particularly when Matt Schaub was there, where they underachieved after having an exceptional season, and that wasn't under Bill O'Brien. The reality is that when you look at what's going on, you kind of wonder why he has the power that he has. Now, I do think it's important to compartmentalize, to really pick apart what he said. What DeAndre Hopkins' personal situation is none of anybody's damn business. The flip side to that is if the coach is saying he doesn't like stuff around the team, that's different, because that's perfectly within a coach's right or an executive's right to tell you what they don't want in the workplace. That's not beyond the pale. It would be beyond the pale to comment and to just talk about what you don't like about his personal life when it's none of your business and it's not something that's brought to the job. But if something is brought to the job, then a boss has some say as to what they would prefer and not prefer in a working environment. Outside of that, here's what it comes down to. DeAndre Hopkins is an all-world receiver. I think the stat the other day showed second in yards, receptions, TD receptions as well. This brother is elite at what he does. How can you have a star like Deshaun Watson as your quarterback and rob him of his best weapon because of your personal feelings? That is what is criminal in all of this, in my estimation. It shows that Bill O'Brien has no business being the executive overseeing the franchise, okay? And that this guy should be coaching if that, and that's about all. He shouldn't have any business running operations, especially when he has shown a penchant in the past and has done so yet again of allowing his personal feelings to get in the way of clear professional judgment. You don't get rid of DeAndre Hopkins when you got Deshaun Watson as your quarterback. That's
Let
criminal.
me just get in here really quickly, Max and Ryan. I just want to reiterate, this is obviously one side of the story. This is DeAndre Hopkins' version of the story, so we can't act like this is Bible and we know it's fact. And I just want to make sure that we put that context out there.
For one, let me start by saying this. DeAndre, I got you. I got you on this. Hold on one second. Whatever DeAndre Hopkins is doing, what's Bill O'Brien mad at if he's in fact said these things? If I were the coach of the team or the GM of the team, I'd tell everyone else on the team, whoever else has some baby mamas, bring them. Whatever DeAndre Hopkins is doing, whether he eats Cheerios in the morning, do that too. Where does he buy his clothes? Just shadow DeAndre Hopkins. At this point, keep 6 feet distance, obviously. But whatever this man is doing, do that. Because he has been the best receiver in the game, at least last year. He's always among the top. But I think it's fair to say after this last season, the best receiver in the game. Antonio Brown didn't play. Julio Jones is right there. Odell didn't have a good season. It's DeAndre Hopkins, the best receiver in the game. The Texans aren't all world, but he's your best player. By the way, for his position, that includes Deshaun Watson. And you're telling him what he's doing isn't good? What? Number one. Number two, is there reason to believe Bill O'Brien said this? Well, is DeAndre Hopkins lying? Is he lying to Michael Irvin? Does he have motive, I guess, if he's mad? But he doesn't seem, he doesn't have a bad reputation along those lines. Jeff Schwartz, the former offensive lineman for the Giants, among others, tweeted within the last hour. He doesn't know if it's true or not, but he has heard from other players that Bill O'Brien, his behavior in the locker room is not what you'd expect from a coach. I'll remind everyone, it came to mind when this came up this morning. Bill O'Brien was cursing out a fan, I don't remember what month it was in the season, but they just lost to Denver, who had a bad record at the time, and they lost pretty bad. I don't remember if it was a blowout, but it was a pretty bad loss, and the fan was getting on the players, and Bill O'Brien was cursing out a fan audibly. People could hear it, and it was DeAndre Hopkins who tried to usher him into the tunnel. Bill O'Brien was acting that way. If this is true, that's outrageous.
Well, I think one of my bigger problems is this. Deshaun Watson puts out a tweet yesterday, or when DeAndre Hopkins was traded, I believe it was Monday, or when the news broke, and he talked about him being a great friend, also being a great leader. I think that matters when the quarterback of a team says, since I've gotten here, you've taken me under your wing and you've been a great leader. To me, that's important. We obviously know what he does on the field with his talent. We know he's a #1 wide receiver. He's an all-pro. He's a guy up there with the Michael Thomases and with the Julio Jones when you start to speak about great wide receivers. But let's not forget how these people on this team follow this man. Maybe Bill O'Brien just invokes the name of Aaron Hernandez because he felt those type of feelings walking into a meeting with him. Maybe that meeting was before we found out what type of life Aaron Hernandez was living away from the field, away from the Patriots facility. But what we do know in hindsight is what type of person or what type of life Aaron Hernandez did have away from the facility, what the perception of that is, what people think about when they think of Aaron Hernandez. So when you're sitting across from a man that doesn't have a criminal record, that doesn't have things going on outside of the field, and you say this, it's either because you feel there's a familiarity and something about that person, or you're just making it up because of your personal feelings and not wanting that person to be a part of your organization or have the type of control that he has. And so many times these coaches get familiar with something. And I'm going to use the word familiar because when you use another word, it starts to go into racism. And I'm not saying that he's racist, but to say something about Aaron Hernandez is out of line. And to talk about baby mamas, and I agree with Stephen A., if he's talking about them being around the building, then he has a right to say that. But let's not forget, and this is not to throw shade or negativity at this person, but Tom Brady also has babies with different women, and nobody speaks about that.
And that's exactly my
Strong point there. I just want to reiterate again. Yeah, Ryan, thank you so much for being with us. Very well said. And again, to reiterate, we have not heard from Bill O'Brien. We have invited him to join us here on First Take, and we have not spoken directly to DeAndre Hopkins either.
Yeah, but let me be very, very clear about my position about Bill O'Brien. You know, take away the Aaron, and I agree with Ryan Clark, if indeed that's true. And Max has qualified his statements by saying, if it's true. The issue that we definitely do know and we don't need to talk to Bill O'Brien about is you traded DeAndre Hopkins. What the hell were you thinking?
And he can't coach. He can't coach either.
Stephen A.
I don't know.
Stephen
Maybe
A.
he prioritizes
the running
Hopkins and wants to take care of Deshaun Watson next year. We got to go, guys. Ryan, thank you so much for being with us. When we come back here on First Take, we dive back into everything that's going on in New England. Who is under more pressure? Is it Brady or Belichick after that 20-year union has officially dissipated? We'll dive into that after the break.